From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the News 8 Daily 8 Podcast with Wish TV's Kylie Conway. A Wish TV News 8 update.
Hi, I'm Kylie Conway, and this is your News 8 Daily 8 for Friday, October 20th. Scattered showers for a good chunk of the Friday. We'll have a little bit of sunshine working in to the latter half of our afternoon. More showers are then possible late tonight into early Saturday morning. But tomorrow it gets much nicer, more sunshine, and a little bit warmer. Today we're going to struggle to get into the upper 50s to low 60s with some pretty decent wind gusts as well. This morning, we've been following two fatal crashes, both involving pedestrians in Indianapolis. Police say an overnight hit and run near Fountain Square left a man dead. IMPD says officers found the victim near Villa Avenue and Pleasant Run Parkway South just before midnight. Medics pronounced him dead at the scene. Investigators have not released anything else about the victim or the vehicle that hit him. IMPD also says a person died in a late-night crash on the city's far west side. It happened at about 11 last night on Rockville Road east of Country Club Road. Investigators think a driver hit and killed the victim as they crossed the street. Police say the driver of the vehicle stayed there at the scene. To iTeam8 now, and the likely months-long delay in the Delphi Murders case. The case took a stunning turn yesterday when Richard Allen's attorneys withdrew from the case over questions about the security of evidence. iTeam8's senior investigative reporter Richard Essex explains what happened at the very short court hearing.
Richard Allen never entered the courtroom today, and a few minutes before the hearing was supposed to start, Allen's wife was taken to the back hallway of the courtroom, which is a departure from some of the past hearings. Now, she was then brought out to the gallery, and then at 2:15, 15 minutes after this hearing was supposed to start, one of Allen's now former lawyers came out and talked to her and then took her out of the courtroom altogether, and they never came back.
We've had an unexpected turn of events.
Andrew Baldwin and Brad Rosie have withdrawn as Richard Allen's defense attorneys. Their leaving the case comes on the heels of a catastrophic evidence leak from Baldwin's office. The tension in the courtroom was thick, to say the least. We had expected Fran Gull, the special judge assigned to this case, to address some of the motions filed by the defense team. And evidence that came from Attorney Baldwin's office. Many of the detectives associated with this case over the years were in the courtroom, along with the Carroll County Sheriff and Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter. Superintendent Carter seemed noticeably upset and kept his eyes trained on the family of Abby Williams and Libby German. A few minutes before the hearing was scheduled to start, a lawyer representing Andrew Baldwin was summoned to the back hallway. It became apparent that something was happening when Attorney Baldwin never entered the courtroom. Richard Allen submitted a letter to the court just 4 hours before the hearing was supposed to start, asking that his lawyers remain on the case.
The defense attorneys have withdrawn their representation of Mr. Allen. Mr. Baldwin made an oral motion to withdraw. I granted that oral motion to withdraw, and Mr. Rosie will be submitting a written motion to withdraw, I'm assuming within the next couple of days. They have confirmed with the court that Mr. Allen's financial situation remains static, meaning he is continuing to be entitled to appointed counsel.
Allen's now former lawyers have been ordered to turn over all the discovery back to the state and to cooperate with new counsel once that they are appointed. The judge did say that she plans on holding another hearing at the end of this month, and now as for the trial date in January, that's almost certain not to happen. In Fort Wayne, Richard Essex, Wish TV, iTeam8.
And today, President Biden says he'll ask Congress to approve a request for $105 billion, largely for Israel and Ukraine. In a primetime speech from the Oval Office, Biden made a direct appeal to America to support both countries in their wars. $60 billion of the package would help Ukraine to replenish its stockpile of U.S. weapons. $14 billion would go to help Israel. Biden called the wars a critical moment for the future of democracies worldwide.
American leadership is what holds the world together. American alliances are what keep us, America, safe. American values are what make us a partner that other nations want to work with. To put all that at risk, if we walk away from Ukraine, we turn our backs on Israel, it's just not worth it.
The $105 billion package also includes money for Indo-Pacific allies and money to curb border and drug trafficking issues in the United States. The Rafah crossing will no longer open today for a convoy of humanitarian aid to get to Gaza. That's according to CNN, which cites multiple anonymous sources. The United Nations planned to send 20 trucks in today with medical supplies and enough food to feed hundreds of thousands of people. The trucks are at the border, ready to cross, but now CNN reports road repairs are needed on the Egyptian side of the buffer zone. Officials tell CNN they hope the first convoy will cross into Israel tomorrow. And today in Congress, Jim Jordan says he will try again to become House Speaker. Jordan met with Republican holdouts behind closed doors yesterday and canceled what would have been the third vote on his candidacy. He's poised to call for the vote today instead.
I plan to go to the floor and get the votes and win this race, but I want to go talk with a few of my colleagues. Particularly, I want to talk with the 20 individuals who voted against me so that we can move forward and begin to work for the American people.
Indiana Congressman Jim Banks is calling on those who have opposed Jordan to change their votes.
What they're doing right now is walking the Republicans off the plank. We don't deserve the majority if we go along with a plan to give the Democrats control over the House of Representatives. It's a giant betrayal to our Republican voters.
Several Republicans who voted against Jordan say they and their families have received death threats for not supporting him. One also says he's being evicted from his office back in his home district. And today, jury selection is set to begin for the first defendant to go to trial in the case over efforts to overturn former President Donald Trump's 2020 election loss in Georgia. Attorney Kenneth Chesebro's trial gets underway today. He was one of 19 indicted just more than 2 months ago. Yesterday, attorney Sidney Powell pleaded guilty in the case. She's charged with 6 misdemeanors, accusing her of conspiring to intentionally interfere with the performance of election duties. Powell is now set to serve 6 years in probation. She has also agreed to testify against her co-defendants at future trials. The Army private who fled to North Korea is now charged with desertion. That is according to a new report from the Associated Press. The AP reports Travis King faces 8 charges in all, including possessing child pornography, assaulting colleagues, and disobeying a superior officer. North Korea first detained King in July when officials say he ran into the country across the border from the south, then released him last month. On the desertion charge alone, King could get a 3-year sentence.
Huge win, but we can't spend a lot of time celebrating that.
The Hamilton County coroner tells IT-Mate more work lies ahead to get answers for more families about one of Indiana's most infamous crime cases. He spoke to our team after announcing the identification of another victim connected to accused serial killer, the late Herb Baumeister. Alan Livingston was 27 when he disappeared in 1993. Police say they were able to match family members' DNA to some of the remains found on the former property of Baumeister in Westfield 30 years later. Coroner Jeff Jellison says it's a big step, but many remains are still not identified.
10,000 remains. How many people that is, I think the number's going to be surprisingly high by the time we get done with this. There is no doubt in my mind that that incident will rank with some of the most prolific, horrific serial killings in this nation.
Family members of Livingston tell IT-Mate they always knew he was one of the men whose bodies were at the Fox Hollow Farm estate. They say the confirmation has been a roller coaster of emotions, but is providing some closure. DPW says it has hired 38 new snowplow drivers thanks to a newly funded program. The city budget approved earlier this week provides $150,000 to pay for commercial driver's licenses, also known as a CDL. The funding is for anyone who agrees to drive for DPW for at least a year. DPW says recruitment has long-term benefits for the city beyond removal of snow from the roads in winter. DPW says drivers must have a CDL permit to begin training. And the Colts will debut their new Indiana Knights uniforms this weekend. There is a lot of hype surrounding the team going into the weekend. The uniforms are heather blue with black helmets. Today, there's live painting demonstrations at Bottle Works. It's connected to the debut. Business this weekend downtown will light the sky blue, and there are new Colts displays at the International Airport. We have much more on all of the happenings regarding this new uniform on wishtv.com. And today, leaders at the Madam Walker Legacy Center will unveil their strategic plan through 2027. Tonight's event starts with a street marker dedication for Madam Walker Memorial Way on Indiana Avenue. Attendees can also go on an Indiana Avenue tour. Local artist Kevin Nance West will speak and host an art reception. It begins at 5:30 at the Legacy Center. And also today, dogs compete at the State Fairgrounds. The Can-Am Flyball Classic starts at 9 this morning. Flyball is a kind of relay race for dogs. The classic runs through Sunday with 3 separate one-day tournaments in different classes. And to business headlines, Lilly is planning to test its diabetes drug Mounjaro for patients 6 and up with obesity, according to a person familiar with the trial who spoke to Bloomberg. Novo Nordisk is also testing Saxenda, an older and less powerful version of its blockbuster drugs Ozempic and Wegovy, in children as young as 6. Lilly started recruiting for a trial in kids 12 and up this week. Ford says it has laid off 150 employees at its Sterling Axle plant due to the UAW strike at its truck assembly facility in Kentucky. The automaker announced the additional employees were asked not to report to work this week due to a reduction in production of car parts that would normally be shipped to Ford's factory in Louisville, where they build the F-150 and Lincoln Navigator. 4 of the 5 largest U.S. banks have cut a combined 20,000 positions so far this year, according to company filings. A key factor driving the cuts is that job hopping in finance slowed drastically from earlier years, leaving banks with more people than they expected. The banks have also been pressured by the impact of higher interest rates on the mortgage business. CVS Health is pulling some of the most common decongestants from its shelves. Advisors to U.S. health regulators recently determined that an ingredient doesn't work. The FDA hasn't made a decision yet, nor asked manufacturers or retailers to remove products from store shelves. CVS is removing phenylephrine products voluntarily. And Americans apparently don't trust social media companies, especially Republicans. The Pew Research Center says 77% of Americans have little or no trust that companies will publicly admit mistakes and take responsibility for data misuse. This has been your News 8 Daily 8 for Wish TV. I'm Kylie Conway. Online at wishtv.com and like us on Facebook when you search Wish TV.
This is the News 8 Daily 8 podcast with Wish TV's Kylie Conway. A Wish TV News 8 update on demand for even more on demand and on the go. Connect with Wish TV on Facebook at wishtv.com and on the free Wish TV mobile app. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like, subscribe, and follow this podcast for updates every weekday morning on the All Indiana Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcast.